The black Jaguar pushed open the heavy oak door, his massive frame silhouetting against the corridor light, as the old man's labored breaths echoed like distant thunder. Rain hammered the tiled roof of the Rio de Janeiro mansion, blurring the favela lights far below Copacabana. Eduardo Jaguar Preto Santos, champion of the ring with fists like forged iron, hesitated. His benefactor, Senor Carlos Almeida, lay propped on silk pillows, skin pale as faded parchment, eyes sharp despite the frailty. This man had pulled him from the mud-slick alleys of Rocinha 15 years ago, turned a street scrapper into a legend. Now, whispers said the end loomed close. Hey, if this tension's got you leaning in, hit that Eduardo crossed the room in 3 strides, his polished shoes silent on the Persian rug. The air thickened with the tang of medicinal herbs and unspoken regrets. "Senor Carlos," he murmured, voice graveled from a lifetime of roars. He sank into the leather chair beside the bed, knuckles whitening on the armrests. The old man's gaze locked on, unblinking, as if measuring the soul behind the champion's mask. "You came." Almeida's whisper cut sharper than any hook, no warmth, just calculation. Eduardo nodded, forcing a half-smile. Memories flooded, the first gym, sweat-soaked gloves, Almeida's gruff commands shaping raw fury into precision. "Heard you're fading fast, figured I'd pay respects." Almeida's lips twitched. A bony hand emerged from the sheets, clutching a faded photograph. He thrust it forward. Eduardo took it, brow furrowing. A young boy, maybe 10, grinned beside a stern teen in a warehouse ring. The boy, dark curls, defiant eyes, looked eerily like his own reflection from those lost years. "Recognize him?" Eduardo's pulse quickened. Short breaths now. He flipped the photo, scribbled ink. "Eduardo, 1998, my shadow." His throat tightened. "What's this mean?" The old man coughed. A dry rattle. Outside, lightning cracked, illuminating gilded frames of Almeida's empire, casinos, shipping lines, all built on shadows Eduardo had never questioned. "You think I plucked you from nothing? I watched you scrap in those backlot fights. Invested, molded. But there's more." Eduardo leaned closer. Tension coiled in his gut, fists clenching instinctively. Almeida's eyes gleamed. "That boy. He's why you're here, not gratitude, debt." Rain lashed harder. Eduardo's mind raced. Debts he'd paid in blood, titles defended in arenas from Vegas to Sao Paulo, cuts of purses funneled back. "Speak plain, Velho. Time's short." Almeida chuckled, weak but venomous. "Short for me, yours, just beginning the real fight." He gestured to a mahogany drawer. Eduardo slid it open. Inside, a leather ledger thick as a Bible, pages yellowed, entries in meticulous script, dates, names, sums wired to hidden accounts. His name topped lists from his early bouts. But below, transfers to a R.S. Khan in Europe. Millions. "Who's R.S.?" Eduardo's voice dropped low, dangerous. "Your brother." Almeida's words hung, a guillotine blade. Eduardo froze. Brother. The streets had taken his family young. Mother vanished in the flood of 95. Father a ghost. No siblings. Lies. Proof. Almeida tapped the ledger. "Roberto. Same blood. I split you apart young, sent him away. Safer. Trained him too. But softly. Not like you, my Jaguar." Eduardo's world tilted. Brother. Rival? The photo burned in his palm. Roberto's grin mocked him. "Why tell now?" Almeida's breath hitched. "He's coming. Tonight. Claims it all. My fortune, the empire. Thinks you're just muscle. Prove him wrong. Fight for it. Not in the ring. Here." Footsteps echoed in the hall. Heavy, deliberate. Eduardo's instincts flared. He pocketed the photo, ledger under his arm. The door handle turned slowly. A shadow filled the frame. Tall, lean, with eyes like polished obsidian. Roberto, dressed in crisp linen, no scars, no calluses. "Brother," he said, voice silk over steel, "late to the family reunion." Eduardo rose, towering, muscles tensed beneath his tailored shirt. Almeida watched, a spider in its web. "Boys," the old man rasped, "blood calls." Roberto stepped in, door clicking shut. The room shrank. Rain drummed a war beat. Eduardo sized him up, not a fighter's build, but poised, calculating. Heard stories, never believed. Roberto smiled thinly. "Stories sell tickets. Truth, father's whim made you champion. Mine, heir." Almeida interjected, voice fading. "Ledger decides. Read it, choose." Eduardo cracked the spine, pages blurred. Roberto's shadow career in boardrooms, laundering the fight purses into legit gold. Eduardo's sweat funded it all. Betrayal twisted deep. "You profited off my pain," Roberto shrugged. "Symbiosis, now he passes the keys. Sign over your claim, walk with a purse, or—" Thunder boomed. Eduardo's fist twitched. No gloves here, just raw stakes. Almeida's eyes fluttered, urging, "Unite or one devours." Tension peaked. Roberto extended a hand, not peace, challenge. Eduardo gripped, bones grinding. Game on. But as they locked stairs, Almeida whispered final words, barely audible. "The real Jaguar isn't black." The room plunged into blackout. Power cut by the storm. In darkness, breaths mingled. Something shifted, a scrape. Then, chaos erupted. Eduardo lunged blind, colliding with furniture. Grunts echoed. The ledger hit the floor. Pages scattering like confetti in a brawl. Roberto's laugh sliced through. Clumsy as ever. Light flickered back, generator hum. Almeida gone from the bed, empty sheets. Heart slamming, Eduardo spun. Open window, curtains whipping in wind. Tracks of liquid trailed out. Roberto knelt by the ledger, scooping pages. Gone, like father planned. Unbelievable. The dying man escaped. Eduardo's roar shook the glass. The hunt began. Eduardo's fists clenched, veins bulging like twisted roots under his skin. The black jaguar didn't lose prey, not ever. He stormed from the room, boots thudding against the polished marble floor of the hacienda. Outside, the Colombian night pressed in, humid and alive with cicada screams. Jungle shadows clawed at the edges of the estate, where armed men waited like statues in the mist. Roberto trailed behind, ledger clutched to his chest. "Boss, the old man's clever, left a trail on purpose. Those tracks, straight to the river." Eduardo spun, eyes narrowing. "Then we follow. Wake the dogs, every man with a rifle." The crew mobilized in seconds. Flashlights pierced the dark, engines growled to life on four-wheelers. Eduardo mounted his own, the beast's roar matching his pulse. They plunged into the underbrush, vines whipping at faces, mud sucking at tires. The trail glistened, liquid smears catching moonlight, leading deeper into the wild. Half a mile in, the river loomed, black water churning under a canopy of ancient sabres. No boat, no ripples. Eduardo dismounted, scanning the bank. His boot nudged something metallic, half buried in the silt. A vial, empty. The same kind the Benefactor hoarded in his study, potent extracts from the jungle's heart. "He's mocking us," Roberto muttered, shining his light. "Pushed off upstream. Current strong here." Eduardo snatched the vial, crushing it in his palm. Shards bit skin, but he felt nothing. The old man, Don Elias, his mentor, the one who'd pulled him from the slums of Medellin and forged him into the Jaguar. Now, on his supposed deathbed, he'd vanished. Why? Eduardo's mind raced. Betrayal? A final game? Hey, if this hunt's got you on the edge, smash that. They split the search. Eduardo took the upstream fork alone, poling a narrow canoe through the murk. Water lapped at the sides, carrying whispers of caimans lurking below. Hours blurred, dawn threatening on the horizon, then a flicker, smoke, faint, curling from a hidden cove. He beached silently, machete drawn. The cove sheltered a thatched shack, forgotten by time. Inside, Elias sat by a low fire, sipping from a gourd. Frail, yes, skin like parchment, but eyes sharp as obsidian. "You found me," Elias rasped, not looking up. "Faster than I thought." Eduardo leveled the blade. "Why run? You called me to your side, said it was time to settle debts." Elias chuckled, a dry rattle. "Debts? Always debts with you, me Jaguar. Sit, the fire's warm." Tension coiled in Eduardo's gut. He lowered the machete but stayed standing. "The ledger's ruined. Your plans gone. What game is this?" The old man gestured to a stool. "No game, a lesson. I've been preparing for this longer than you know. The Jaguar needs to hunt alone to survive." Flashbacks hit Eduardo like river spray. Years ago, Elias had plucked him from street fights, taught him the cartel's shadows, smuggling routes through the Andes, alliances with federales, built an empire. But whispers grew. Elias hoarding secrets, siphoning funds. The dying act, a ruse to test loyalty. "You think I'm weak," Eduardo growled, "ready to devour your scraps." Elias met his gaze. "I think you're blind. The ledger? A decoy. Real power's here." He tapped his temple. "Roots memorized. Contacts loyal to me, not you." Roberto's voice crackled over the radio. "Boss, track split. Heading back to base." Eduardo silenced it. The fire popped, embers dancing. Elias leaned forward. "Kill me now, and the empire crumbles. Men will scatter, or listen. Take what's yours the hard way." The Jaguar paced, mind-fracturing. Loyalty warred with ambition. Elias coughed, clutching his side. Real pain, or theater. Outside, howler monkeys screeched a warning. "You taught me everything," Eduardo said, voice low. "Betrayal's the last lesson." Elias smiled faintly. "Then learn it." Eduardo lunged, not with steel but hands. Pinned the old man, searching pockets. A folded map tumbled out, hand-drawn, marked with hidden airstrips, safe houses unmarked on any ledger. Elias wheezed. "See, you hunt well." But as Eduardo pocketed it, Elias twisted free, surprisingly spry. Grabbed a branch from the fire, brandishing the flame. "Not yet, boy." The shack erupted in struggle, tables overturned, gourds shattered, spilling bitter liquid that stung the air. Eduardo dodged embers, countering with a knee. Elias fought dirty, nails raking, elbow to the throat. Years melted away. Mentor became rival. They spilled outside, rolling in the shallows. Water surged, pulling at legs. Eduardo gained top, fist raised. Elias's eyes locked on. "The Jaguar doesn't kill family, he adapts." Hesitation, a second too long. Elias bucked, reversing. Now he loomed, hands around Eduardo's neck. Vision blurred, jungle spun. Roberto burst from the brush, rifle raised. "Boss!" Elias released, staggering back. "Enough!" He tossed a second vial into the river. "Go home, Jaguar. The real hunt's just starting." Eduardo gasped air, rising. Men encircled, but he waved them off. Elias melted into the mist, canoe vanishing upstream. Back at the hacienda, dawn broke gold over the hills. Eduardo studied the map by his desk. Roberto hovered. "We pursue?" "No." Eduardo traced a line to Bogota. "He wants me to chase ghosts. Time to build my own web." But doubt lingered. Elias alive meant threats unseen. The Jaguar paced his empire, sensing eyes in every shadow. The hunt reversed. Who prey, who predator? Days turned to a week. Couriers vanished. Allies whispered of ghosts in the jungle. Eduardo doubled guards, eyes on every horizon. Then a package at the gate. No sender. Inside a jaguar tooth necklace, Elias's old talisman. And a note, "Visit me again. The river waits." Eduardo's roar echoed anew. The cycle spun, unbreakable. Eduardo gripped the necklace, the jaguar tooth biting into his palm like a promise unkept. Rain hammered the estate's tin roof, turning the dirt yard into a slick trap. He hadn't returned to the river since Elias's last whisper. that fevered plea amid the vines, but the note's ink bled truth. No forgery could mimic that spidery script. He slung a duffel over his shoulder, cash stacks, a silenced pistol wrapped in oilcloth, his old machete etched with river scars. The driver waited in the black SUV, engine growling low against the storm. "To the docks!" Eduardo barked. No questions, the man knew better. The city blurred past, Manaus at midnight, neon veins pulsing through flooded streets. Barges groaned on the Negro River, their hulls bloated with smuggled cargo. Eduardo's empire had risen here brick by brick, deal by shadowed deal. Elias built the foundation, the old man's whispers opening doors no force could. Now, payback called. At the private pier, a speedboat idled. Pilot hunched under a poncho. Waves slapped hulls like impatient fists. Eduardo boarded, the boat slicing into blackness. The Amazon swallowed light whole. Hours blurred, engine drone, spray stinging his face, memories uncoiling like anacondas. Elias's finca emerged at dawn, a rotting palace on stilts above the water. Vines strangled the walls, parrots screeching territorial warnings, no guards visible, unusual. Eduardo's boots sank into mud as he approached, pistol drawn. The air hung thick, fermented with decay. The door creaked open on rusted hinges. Inside, shadows pooled. "Elias!" His voice cut the hush. A cough rattled from the back room, wet and defiant. Eduardo pushed forward, machete now in hand. The main hall reeked of mildew and herbs. Elias's tonics, boiled from roots that promised eternity. There, on a hammock strung between beams, lay the Benefactor. Skin like crumpled bark, eyes sunken but sharp as cayman teeth, tubes snaked from his arms to jury-rigged drips glowing faintly under a lantern. "You came," Elias rasped, lips cracking into a grin. "The black Jaguar answers." Eduardo knelt, necklace dangling from his fist. "Your talisman and your note. What game now?" Elias's laugh dissolved into hacks. He waved a skeletal hand. "No game, rapaz. Time's the thief. Sit. Hey, if this tension's got you hooked like Eduardo on that note, smash that Eduardo perched on a crate, the wood groaning under his weight." Outside, howler monkeys screamed a dawn chorus. "The cycle," he muttered. "Your roar echoes mine. Why summon now?" Elias's gaze pierced the gloom. "Because the river reveals. You think you're unbreakable? That empire of whispers and shadows." He coughed again, clutching his chest. "It's a noose, tightening." Eduardo leaned in, tension coiling his shoulders. "Speak plain. I've buried threats deeper than this mud." The old man fished a faded photo from his shirt. Young Eduardo, feral-eyed, beside a caged Jaguar cub. "You were mine once. I pulled you from the shanties, taught you the currents. Favors traded like fish. But favor won. And the debt swells." Flashback hit Eduardo like a rogue wave. 15 years back, Elias spotting him in a Belém alley, fists bloodied from a turf scrap. "Boy with Jaguar fire," Elias had said, offering a ride upriver. Mentorship followed. Navigation of cartels, politicians, the endless grey trade. Elias never asked for souls, just loyalty. Eduardo delivered, building the network that made him untouchable. "Now," Elias wheezed, "that roar you hear, it's the past circling. Rivals sniff weakness. My illness leaks whispers. They come for you through me." Eduardo's jaw tightened. "Let them. I've crushed louder." "Not this." Elias tapped the necklace. "The tooth's power wanes, real powers in bloodlines unspoken." A thud outside, branches snapping. Eduardo spun, pistol up. Silence, then footsteps, deliberate. The door banged wide. 2 figures, wiry men in slickers, faces hooded by rain. Compadres? No, eyes cold, grips on automatics. "Traidores!" Eduardo growled, diving behind the crate as shots splintered wood. Elias didn't flinch. "See, the cycle spins." Bullets whined, stitching the walls. Eduardo rolled, machete flashing, severing one's tendon in a spray of motion. The man crumpled, howling. Second lunged. Eduardo's pistol coughed twice, center mass. Bodies slumped, rain pooling around them. Panting, he turned. Elias unchanged, watching like a ghost. Planted them myself. Test. You son of... Eduardo holstered, fury boiling. Why? To show the unbreakable cracks. Elias extended a trembling hand. Take the Finca's ledger, hidden under floorboards. Debts listed, yours first. Pay them, or the river drags you under. Eduardo pried planks, revealing a waterproof satchel. Pages thick with names, routes, balances. His empire's veins exposed. One entry chilled, his own alias, tied to Elias's final favor. The package, Eduardo realized. You forced my hand. Elias nodded weakly. Visit was the spark. Now burn clean or repeat my fade. Thunder rolled, shaking the stilts. Eduardo pocketed the ledger, necklace around his neck. The tooth warmed against his skin. Cycle unbroken or fork in the current? He stepped into the downpour, boat waiting. Elias's voice trailed. Choose, Jaguar. River waits for no roar. Back in Manaus by dusk, Eduardo pored over the ledger in his fortified penthouse. Names glowed under desk light. Old allies turned snakes, shipments rerouted. Arrivals mark everywhere. Victor Ramos, the ghost from Belém days. Phone buzzed, unknown number. Black Jaguar, we know about the Finca. Elias's gift, ours next. Eduardo's laugh was low thunder. He traced Ramos's trail. A warehouse on the Solimois, guarded heavy. Assault now, or deeper play. Night deepened. He armed up, calling his crew. We end the echo tonight. The convoy snaked through fog-shrouded alleys, SUVs black as the river. Warehouse loomed, floodlights cutting mist. Guards patrolled catwalks, 6 armed. Eduardo signaled. Silences whispered. Sentries dropped like felled trees. Breach. Doors blown quiet, shadows flooding in. Inside, crates towered, stamped with his own roots. Ramos waited center, flanked by enforcers. Eduardo, late to the party. Party's mine! Shots erupted, chaos of muzzle flashes, bodies twisting. Eduardo advanced, machete singing, pistol barking. One enforcer charged, blade met throat in a gurgle. Ramos fired wild. Eduardo sidestepped, 2 taps dropping him. Silence fell, acrid smoke curling. Ramos gasped on knees. Elias sent you? The old fool? His roar, my echo. Eduardo pressed boot to chest. Debts paid. Ramos smirked through pain. Ledger's fake. Cycle's mine. More teeth sharpen. Eduardo froze. The satchel. Poisoned gift. He checked phone. Alerts flooding. Hits on his docks. Crew down. Betrayal layered. Elias's final twist. Propel or drown. He dragged Ramos to the riverbank. Waves lapping hungry. Swim your lies. Splash. Gurgle. Gone. Dawn broke as Eduardo returned empty-handed. Estate gates clanged shut. But the roar lingered, internal now, questioning every shadow. The necklace pulsed. Unbreakable or illusion? If you're still glued to this unraveling empire, hit that Rafael's tires screeched against the slick Rio asphalt. Neon from Copacabana bled into the night, mocking the heat rising from his collar. The necklace throbbed. Not imagination. A rhythm synced to his pulse. Faster. Demanding. He punched the dashboard. Pain shot up his knuckles. Good. Real. Unlike the old man's whispers in that sterile room. Wear it always, Jaguar. It binds us. Senor Almeida's eyes, milky with finality, had locked on his. No tears. Just that gaze. Piercing. Possessive. Rafael had nodded. Heavy-handed exit. Gates slammed like judgment. But now, alone in the armored SUV, the roar clawed deeper. Shadows in the rear view. His own men? Paranoia from years in the favela's underbelly. The Black Jaguar didn't flinch. Or did he? A burner phone buzzed, unknown number. He snatched it. Fala. Rafael, it's Lucia. The benefactor's daughter, voice like shattered glass. He's gone, hours ago. Come back. Gone. The word hung, not sudden, expected, yet it twisted. Raphael U-turned hard, traffic parted like prey. The estate loomed again, floodlights carving ghosts from the manicured lawns. Gates creaked open, silent staff. No wail of sirens, just the humid air, thick with jasmine and secrets. Lucia waited in the study, hair disheveled, silk robe clinging. Not grief-stricken, calculating. He left instructions for you. Raphael's hand brushed the necklace, still warm. What kind? She slid an envelope across the mahogany desk, sealed with wax, the Jaguar emblem, his emblem. He tore it open. A single page, handwritten, trembling script. My Jaguar, this chain is no trinket. Open it. See the truth I've guarded. Forgive the game. The empire crumbles without trust. Choose wisely. No signature, just a diagram. Tiny screws hidden in the clasp. Lucia leaned closer, perfume sharp. He played us both, favors, power, illusions to forge you. But the real vault, under the favela chapel, codes inside. Raphael's fingers pried. Click, the pendant split. Not gold. A microchip, glowing faintly blue. Data, maps, accounts, offshore rivers of wealth, funneled clean. Billions, Almeida's true legacy, not the crumbling estate, but this digital fortress. Eyes narrowed. You knew? She shrugged, guessed. He molded you from street scraps into this. Gesture sweeping his frame, tattoos peeking from cuffs, eyes like polished obsidian. But now, without him? Tension coiled, the roar surged. Was she ally, or the shadow tailing him? Footsteps outside, guards, rivals sniffing weakness. He pocketed the chip. Show me the chapel. Dawn cracked the horizon as they descended into Rocinha. SUV bounced over rutted paths. Kids kicked balls in doorways, eyes wide at the Jaguar's return. Whispers rippled, legend alive. The chapel squatted humble, whitewash peeling, saints gazing indifferently. Lucia punched a code behind a loose brick. Stairs yawned. Dank, echoing drips. Below, a vault door, steel, impenetrable. Raphael slotted the chip into a reader. Gears word, green light. Inside, not gold bars, servers humming, screens flickering live feeds, ports, shipments, loyalists worldwide, the Empire's heart, Almeida's genius, tech veiled as muscle, but a final screen lit, Almeida's face. Recorded, frail, but fire in the eyes. Jaguar, if you see this, I've parted early. The necklace, my test. Bindings break, you built this with me. Now dismantle or rule. But no, I chose you not for strength. For the doubt I saw flickering. Shadows question, that's power. Pause, cough. Lucia stays. She knows halves. Together or alone. Screen died. Raphael turned. Lucia's hand on a console. Tempted. Her eyes mirrored his, hungry, haunted. You take it. Voice low. He gripped the necklace, empty now, cool. No. Fingers flew, commands entered, servers whirred louder, data shredding, feeds blackening, wealth evaporating into ether, traces erased. Lucia gasped. Why? It's everything. Everything? Raphael's laugh barked short. Illusion. He saw the roar, internal cage. She lunged, nails raked, fury, betrayal. He caught her wrists, gentle, firm. Go, live real. She wrenched free, stumbled upstairs, gone, alone, vault silent. Raphael smashed the chip under heel, sparks, final pulse, sun-pierced grates. He climbed out, chapel door swung wide. Favela stirred, no empire, just Raphael, the man beneath the beast. A kid approached, ball under arm. Jaguar? Play? He took it, kicked, true, clean arc. The roar faded, not silenced, tamed, weeks blurred. No throne, He coached those streets. Skills, not shadows. Lucia vanished. Rumours, abroad, starting over, estate sold, funds to clinics quiet. One night, mirror reflection, scars, yes, but eyes clear, necklace discarded in ocean waves. Almeida's game won. Unbelievable end. Freedom in shattering chains. If this twist gripped you through the shadows, smash.